When everything collapsed, the fluorescent lights in the hallway felt colder than usual. Rebecca Hayes stood outside the glass door of Palmer Marketing Group, staring at her reflection. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a professional bun, her navy blazer still crisp despite the long day. But her eyes told a different story. They were tired, worried, and about to witness the end of everything she had worked for. Inside the conference room, her boss, Mr. Thornton, sat with his arms crossed. The HR representative, a woman Rebecca had only seen twice before, adjusted her glasses nervously. Rebecca knew before sitting down. This was not a performance review. This was an execution. "Rebecca, thank you for coming in," Mr. Thornton began, his voice lacking any warmth. "Due to company restructuring and budget constraints, we are eliminating your position effective immediately." The words hit like a physical blow. Rebecca opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. 5 years of dedication, countless overtime hours, campaigns that brought in millions for the company. All of it meant nothing in this moment. "Your final paycheck will include 2 weeks severance," the HR woman added, sliding an envelope across the table. "We appreciate your service." 15 minutes later, Rebecca walked out of the building carrying a small cardboard box with her desk belongings. A coffee mug her best friend gave her. A framed photo of her late father. A succulent plant that somehow survived her neglect. The October wind cut through her blazer as she stood on the sidewalk, watching her former colleagues through the windows above, still working, still employed, still secure. The weight of reality, the train ride home to her apartment in Lincoln Park, felt endless. Rebecca clutched the envelope, afraid to open it, afraid to see the number that would determine how long she could survive. Her phone buzzed repeatedly in her purse. She knew without looking that they were collection calls. The medical bills from her father's final months, the credit card debt she accumulated trying to keep him comfortable, the student loans that never seemed to shrink no matter how much she paid. When she finally reached her apartment building, the rain had started. Cold, heavy drops that soaked through her clothes as she climbed the front steps. She fumbled with her keys, dropped them, picked them up with shaking hands. Then she saw it. A white paper notice taped to her door. Large red letters stamped across the top. Eviction notice. Rebecca ripped it down. Ash. Her vision blurring as she read through tears. 60 days past due on rent. Total amount owed, $12,000. She had until next Friday to pay or vacate the premises. 1 week. 7 days to come up with money she absolutely did not have. The cardboard box slipped from her arms, crashing to the floor. The coffee mug shattered. The photo frame cracked. Rebecca did not care. She slid down the door until she was sitting on the cold concrete landing. Her back against the wood, her professional facade finally breaking completely. She cried, deep, gasping sobs that came from somewhere dark inside her chest. The kind of crying that leaves you exhausted and empty. Nobody was around to hear. The other tenants were at work, at dinner, living their normal lives while hers fell apart. The arrival, the sound of a car engine, interrupted her breakdown. Rebecca wiped her eyes with her sleeve, embarrassed, even though no one was watching. But then she heard car doors opening. Footsteps on the wet pavement. She looked up through her tangled hair. A black SUV sat at the curb, rain streaming down its polished surface. The back door was open, and a man was stepping out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He held a black umbrella, but he was not using it yet. He was looking directly at her. "Rebecca Hayes," he said. It was not a question. He knew her name. Rebecca struggled to her feet, suddenly aware of how she must look. Mascara-streaked face, soaked clothes, sitting in a pile of broken belongings. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" The man walked closer, finally opening the umbrella as he approached the steps. Up close, Rebecca could see his features more clearly. Sharp jawline, dark hair, with touches of gray at the temples, intense blue eyes that seemed to evaluate everything. He looked to be in his late 30s, successful, powerful, completely out of place in this neighborhood. "My name is Nathan Cross," he said calmly. "I am here because I have a proposal for you." "I do not know you," Rebecca said, her voice shaky. "I did not call anyone. Please leave me alone." "You did not call me," Nathan agreed. But I know about you. I know you lost your job today. I know you owe $47,000 in various debts. I know you are about to be evicted. And I know you have nobody to turn to for help. The specificity of his words froze Rebecca in place. 47,000? He knew the exact amount. How could he possibly know that? Are you from a collection agency? Because I cannot pay right now. I just need some time. I am not a collector, Nathan said. Quite the opposite. I am here to pay your debts. All of them. Every single dollar. Rebecca stared at him, certain she had misheard through the rain. What? $47,000, Nathan repeated. I will transfer the money tonight. Your rent, your medical bills, your credit cards, your student loans, everything cleared. You will receive confirmation by morning. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it absolutely was. Rebecca shook her head, backing toward her door. Nobody does that. What do you want from me? Because whatever it is, I am not interested. Nathan tilted his head slightly, studying her reaction. Smart to be suspicious. But I assure you, this is a legitimate business arrangement. I need something from you, yes. But it is nothing illegal, nothing that will harm you, and nothing you cannot walk away from if you choose. Then what is it? Rebecca demanded, her heart pounding. Nathan glanced at the eviction notice crumpled in her hand, then back at her face. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend for 6 months. Public appearances, business dinners, charity events. You would live in my home, attend functions with me, and present the image of a committed relationship. In return, I pay your debts immediately and provide you with a monthly stipend of $5,000 for your cooperation. The words hung in the air between them, almost absurd against the backdrop of the rainy Chicago street. Rebecca opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. You want to pay me to be your fake girlfriend? Yes. Why? Because in my world, investors and business partners trust married men, committed men, more than bachelors, Nathan said simply. I am in the middle of a major merger. The perception of stability matters. I do not have time for a real relationship, but I need the appearance of one. You need money? It is mutually beneficial. Rebecca laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. This is insane. You are insane. I do not even know you. You do not have to know me to accept help, Nathan said. His expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Look, I understand this is overwhelming. You have had the worst day of your life. You are scared and angry and probably think I am some kind of predator. But I am not. I am simply a man with money who needs a service, offering that money to someone who desperately needs it. No strings beyond the agreed arrangement. No expectations beyond public appearances. You would have your own private space, your own freedom, and a contract that protects you legally. Rebecca wanted to tell him to leave, wanted to slam her door and pretend this bizarre conversation never happened. But the eviction notice was still in her hand. The broken pieces of her life were still scattered at her feet, and the number 47,000 kept echoing in her mind. I need to think, she whispered. Nathan reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, extending it toward her. Take the night. My number is on this card. Call me by noon tomorrow with your decision. If you agree, I will have my lawyer draw up a contract, and we can begin immediately. If you decline, you will never hear from me again. Rebecca took the card with numb fingers. Nathan Cross, CEO, Cross Industries. A downtown address that she recognized as one of the most expensive buildings in Chicago. Nathan turned and walked back to his SUV, the umbrella keeping him perfectly dry. Just before he got in, he looked back at her one more time. For what it is worth, Rebecca, I am sorry about your father. I know what it is like to lose someone important. Then he was gone. The black SUV disappearing into the rain-soaked streets, leaving Rebecca standing alone with a business card that might be her salvation or her biggest mistake. She looked down at the card, then at her broken belongings, then at the eviction notice. The rain continued to fall. Her life continued to crumble. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, she was desperate enough to say yes. The longest night Rebecca did not sleep that night. She sat on her worn couch in the dark apartment. Nathan Cross's business card on the coffee table in front of her, glowing white in the dim light from the street. Rain continued to hammer against the windows, matching the storm of thoughts in her head. $47,000. 6 months. Pretend to be someone's girlfriend? She picked up her phone a dozen times, started typing questions into search engines, then stopped. What would she even search for? Is it legal to be paid to fake a relationship? Billionaire offering money for a companionship scam? Everything sounded ridiculous when she tried to put it into words at 3 in the morning. She finally searched Nathan Cross Chicago. The results flooded her screen. CEO of Cross Industries, a major investment and development firm. Net worth estimated at over $2 billion. Recent articles about a massive merger with a European real estate conglomerate. Photos of him at charity galas, business conferences, always alone or with business associates. Never with a woman on his arm. Rebecca scrolled through image after image. Nathan shaking hands with politicians. Nathan cutting ribbons at building openings. Nathan giving speeches at economic forums. He looked the same in every photo. Composed, powerful, untouchable. But there was something else she noticed. In none of the pictures was he smiling. Not really. The expression was always professional, controlled. Empty. She kept searching and found an older article from 3 years ago. The headline made her breath catch. Tragedy strikes Chicago businessman fiancé killed in accident days before wedding. Rebecca read the entire article twice. Nathan Cross had been engaged to a woman named Amanda Westbrook, a pediatric surgeon. They were planning a wedding at the Chicago Botanic Garden. 1 week before the ceremony, Amanda was driving home from the hospital when a drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. Nathan had been hospitalized for severe shock and did not attend the funeral. The article included a photo of them together at some charity event, taken months before the accident. Nathan's arm was around Amanda's waist, and in that picture, he was actually smiling. A real smile. Amanda was beautiful, with kind eyes and dark hair, pulled back in a simple style. She looked happy, genuine, alive. Rebecca set her phone down and stared at the business card again. Now the puzzle pieces started fitting together. A man who lost his fiancée 3 years ago. A man who throws himself into work. A man who needs the appearance of a relationship, but cannot face a real one. It was not just about business perception. It was about armor, about protection, about keeping the world at a distance while maintaining the facade of normalcy. She understood that kind of pain. When her father died 18 months ago after a brutal fight with cancer, Rebecca had thrown herself into work too. She stopped dating, stopped socializing, stopped letting people get close. Work was safe. Work was controllable. Work could not break your heart until work fired you and left you with nothing. The morning decision, when dawn finally came. Gray and cold, Rebecca made her decision. She showered, dressed in clean jeans and a sweater, and made coffee with shaking hands. At exactly 11:30, she dialed the number on Nathan's card. He answered on the second ring. Nathan Cross. "It is Rebecca Hayes," she said, surprised at how steady her voice sounded. "I will do it. I will take your offer." There was a pause then. "Are you certain? This is not a decision to make lightly." "I am certain," Rebecca said, though her heart was racing. "But I have conditions. Name them. I want everything in writing. Every expectation, every boundary, every detail. I want to know exactly what I am agreeing to before I sign anything. And I want my own lawyer to review the contract." "Agreed," Nathan said without hesitation. "I will arrange for my attorney to draft the contract today. I will also provide you with contact information for an independent lawyer who can review it on your behalf at my expense. Can you meet me at my office at 3 this afternoon?" "Yes." "Good. The address is on my card. Come to the top floor. Security will be expecting you." He paused again. "Rebecca, I want you to understand something. This arrangement is strictly professional. You will have your own bedroom with a lock on the door. I will not touch you without your permission. I will not ask you for anything beyond what is stated in the contract. You are free to leave at any time if you feel unsafe or uncomfortable. Is that clear? Yes, Rebecca said quietly. Then I will see you at 3. The line went dead. Rebecca sat with the phone in her hand for a long moment, wondering if she had just made the best or worst decision of her life. The contract. Signing Nathan's office building was everything Rebecca expected. Gleaming glass and steel, marble floors, security checkpoints, and the kind of quiet that only exists in places where serious money changes hands. She gave her name at the front desk, and within minutes, she was being escorted to a private elevator that required a keycard to operate. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse office suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. The view was breathtaking, the city sprawling beneath them like a living map. But Rebecca barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on Nathan, who stood by the windows in a navy suit, hands in his pockets, watching her arrive. "Rebecca," he said, gesturing to a seating area with leather couches and a glass coffee table. "Please, sit down." A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a kind smile was already seated, a leather portfolio in her lap. "This is Patricia Morrison," Nathan said. "She is my attorney and will walk you through the contract terms." Patricia stood and shook Rebecca's hand firmly. "It is nice to meet you, Rebecca. I understand this is an unusual situation, so I want to make sure you feel completely comfortable with every aspect of this agreement." For the next hour, Patricia went through the contract page by page. The terms were surprisingly straightforward. Rebecca would live in Nathan's home for 6 months. She would attend business dinners, charity galas, and public events with him, presenting themselves as a committed couple. She would be respectful and polite in public settings. In return, Nathan would immediately pay all her existing debts, totaling $47,000. He would provide her with a monthly stipend of $5,000. She would have her own private bedroom and bathroom. She could end the arrangement at any time, though she would be required to repay the debt payment if she left before the 6-month period ended. "What about physical contact?" Rebecca asked, her cheeks flushing slightly. Patricia did not blink. "The contract explicitly states that any physical contact beyond what is necessary for public appearances, hand-holding, a brief kiss for photographs, requires mutual consent. There is no expectation or requirement of intimacy. And if someone asks about our relationship, our history, we have prepared a background story," Nathan said, speaking for the first time since the review began. "We met at a charity auction 4 months ago. We kept the relationship private initially due to my public profile. We are taking things slowly but seriously. The story is simple enough to be believable and vague enough to avoid detailed questions." Rebecca nodded slowly. "And after 6 months, we announce an amicable separation," Nathan said. "We remain friends but decide we are better apart than together. You receive a final payment of $20,000, and we part ways. Your debt remains cleared regardless of the separation." And it sounded too clean, too transactional. But then again, that was exactly what it was. A transaction. "There is one more thing," Patricia said, sliding another document across the table. "This is a non-disclosure agreement. You cannot discuss the terms of this arrangement with anyone outside of yourself, Nathan, and your legal representative. You cannot sell your story to media outlets. You cannot write about it, blog about it, or profit from it in any way. Violation of the NDA results in a penalty of $500,000. Rebecca swallowed hard. That was the real trap, the real control. But she understood why it existed. Nathan was protecting himself, his business, his reputation. She would be doing the same in his position. "I would like my lawyer to review everything before I sign," Rebecca said. "Of course." Patricia handed her a business card. "This is Thomas Chen. He is an excellent contract attorney and has no connection to Nathan or Cross Industries. I have already sent him a copy of all documents. He is expecting your call." Rebecca took the card, surprised by the level of preparation. Nathan had thought of everything, moving in 3 days later. After her lawyer confirmed that the contract was legitimate and fair, Rebecca signed. The money hit her accounts within hours. She watched her bank balance change from -$400 to $18,300 after all her debts were cleared. It felt surreal, like watching someone else's life. Nathan sent a car to pick her up on Friday evening. She packed 2 suitcases with everything she owned that mattered: clothes, books, her father's watch, old photo albums. The rest she left behind for the landlord to deal with. She was not coming back here. Even if this arrangement fell apart, she could not return to this place of failure and pain. The car drove north along the lake, eventually turning into a gated community Rebecca had only seen in magazines. The houses here were not just homes. They were estates, sprawling lawns, private docks, architecture that screamed wealth and taste. The car stopped in front of a modern glass and stone house that seemed to float above the landscape. All clean lines and dramatic angles. Nathan was waiting at the front door. "Welcome," he said simply. Inside, the house was beautiful in a cold, sterile way. Everything was expensive and perfect and completely impersonal. White walls, modern furniture, art that looked important but emotionless. It felt like a museum, not a home. "Your room is upstairs," Nathan said, leading her up a floating staircase. He opened a door to reveal a large bedroom with its own bathroom and a view of the lake. The room was decorated in soft grays and whites, with a queen bed, a desk, and a walk-in closet. "This is beautiful," Rebecca said honestly. "I will be across the hall," Nathan said, pointing to another closed door. "The office downstairs is mine. Please do not go in there. Otherwise, you are free to use any part of the house. Kitchen, living room, library, gym, pool. Make yourself comfortable." "When is our first event?" Rebecca asked. "Tomorrow night. There is a charity gala at the Art Institute. I have arranged for a stylist to come at 2 in the afternoon to help you prepare." He paused at the door. "Rebecca, I know this is strange. I know you are probably terrified. But I promise you, I will keep my word. You are safe here." After he left, Rebecca sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the room. Safe. That was what he promised. But as she stared at the locked door, the expensive furniture, the view of a life she did not belong in, she wondered if safety was really what she needed, or if she had just traded one kind of prison for another. The first appearance the next evening. Rebecca stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing herself. The stylist had transformed her into someone else entirely. Her hair was styled in loose waves, her makeup was flawless. The emerald green gown fit her perfectly, highlighting curves she usually hid under work clothes. Diamond earrings, borrowed from Nathan's collection, sparkled at her ears. Nathan appeared in the doorway, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. He was in a classic black tuxedo, looking like he had stepped out of a magazine. But his eyes were fixed on her with an expression she could not read. "You look stunning," he said finally. "Thank you," Rebecca replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "You look nice too." The ride to the Art Institute was quiet. Nathan reviewed some notes on his phone while Rebecca stared out the window, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. When they arrived, photographers were waiting. The flash of cameras was blinding. Nathan got out first, then extended his hand to help her from the car. His hand was warm, steady. "Just stay close to me," he murmured. "Smile. Do not answer any questions. I will handle everything." They walked the red carpet together, his arm around her waist. Reporters shouted questions. "Nathan, who is your date? Is this someone special? How long have you been seeing each other?" Nathan smiled, the professional smile Rebecca had seen in all those photos. "This is Rebecca Hayes," he said smoothly. "And yes, she is very special to me. Now, if you will excuse us." Inside, the gala was a swirl of expensive gowns, tuxedos, champagne, and fake laughter. Nathan introduced her to dozens of people whose names she immediately forgot. Business partners, investors, politicians. Everyone smiled and congratulated them, their eyes sharp and evaluating. "She is lovely, Nathan," one older woman said, looking Rebecca up and down like merchandise. "So refreshing to see you with someone again. It has been far too long." "Thank you, Margaret," Nathan said, his jaw tightening slightly. Throughout the evening, Nathan never left her side. His hand remained on her back, or holding hers, a constant anchor. They danced once, swaying to a slow song in a room full of people who were all watching them. "You are doing wonderfully," Nathan said quietly as they moved across the floor. "I feel like a fraud," Rebecca admitted. "We are all frauds here," Nathan said, and for the first time she heard something real in his voice. The difference is, most of them do not admit it. When they finally left at midnight, Rebecca's feet were killing her, and her face hurt from smiling. In the car, she kicked off her heels and leaned her head back against the seat. "I am sorry," Nathan said suddenly. Rebecca opened her eyes. "For what?" "For throwing you into that without more preparation. I forgot how exhausting those events can be when you are not used to them." "It's fine," Rebecca said. "It is what I signed up for." Still, he looked at her in the dim light of the car. "You handled it better than I expected. You were natural, graceful. People believed us." "Good," Rebecca said. "That is what you were paying for, right? A believable performance." Something flickered across Nathan's face, but he just nodded. "Right." The rest of the drive was silent. When they got home, Rebecca went straight to her room, locked the door, and collapsed on the bed in her expensive gown. She stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what she had done settling over her like a heavy blanket. She had sold 6 months of her life to a stranger. She was living in his house, wearing his jewelry, pretending to be his girlfriend in front of hundreds of people. And the worst part, a small, dangerous part of her mind whispered that it did not feel entirely like pretending. When Nathan's hand held hers, when he looked at her with those intense blue eyes, when he smiled his rare, real smile, something inside her responded. That was the real danger, Rebecca realized. Not the contract, not the deception, not the transactional nature of their arrangement. The danger was that she might start to forget it was all fake, that she might start to believe her own performance. And that, she knew, was a mistake she could not afford to make. The quiet 3 weeks passed in a strange routine. Rebecca and Nathan ate breakfast together in silence. Him reading business news on his tablet, her drinking coffee, and looking out at the lake. He left for work at 8. She spent her days reading, walking the grounds, trying to adjust to this bizarre new life. Evenings varied. Sometimes Nathan came home for dinner and they made awkward conversation about nothing important. Sometimes he worked late, and she ate alone in the massive dining room. Feeling like a ghost in someone else's house, they had attended 4 more events together. A business dinner, a gallery opening, a fundraiser for children's hospitals, and a private party at a colleague's estate. Each time, they played their roles perfectly. Nathan introduced her with pride. Rebecca smiled and made small talk. They held hands. They stood close. They looked like a couple, but at home. They were strangers who happened to share an address. Rebecca tried not to think about it too much. She had a roof over her head, food to eat, and no debt collectors calling her phone. That was more than she had a month ago. She should be grateful. She should be content with the arrangement. But late at night, lying in her comfortable bed in her locked room, she felt achingly lonely one Thursday morning. Rebecca came downstairs to find Nathan in the kitchen, actually cooking. He was making scrambled eggs, and the smell of coffee filled the air. "Good morning," she said, surprised. Usually, he just grabbed coffee and left. "Morning," Nathan replied without turning around. "I have a late meeting today, so I thought I would make breakfast." "Are you hungry?" "Sure," Rebecca said. Sitting at the kitchen island, Nathan plated the eggs, along with toast and bacon, setting a plate in front of her before taking his own seat. They ate in their usual silence for a few minutes. "Can I ask you something?" Rebecca said suddenly. Nathan looked up, fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Of course, why do you live in this huge house alone? I mean, even with me here, it feels empty. Do you ever think about getting a smaller place?" Nathan set down his fork, considering the question. "I bought this house for Amanda. She loved the lake, loved the light. We were going to fill it with children someday. After she died, I could not bring myself to sell it. But I also cannot bring myself to really live in it. So it just sits here, a monument to something that never happened." The honesty in his voice surprised Rebecca. "That sounds exhausting. Living in a museum of your past." "It is," Nathan admitted. But it is easier than moving forward. Rebecca met his eyes across the kitchen island. Is it, though? Easier? Nathan held her gaze for a long moment, then looked away. I do not know anymore. The conversation ended there, but something had shifted. A small crack in the wall between them. The late-night conversation, 2 nights later, Rebecca could not sleep. She wandered downstairs at 2 in the morning, thinking she would make tea and read in the library. But when she reached the living room, she found Nathan there, sitting in the dark by the windows, glass of whiskey in his hand. Sorry, Rebecca said, turning to leave. I did not know you were here. Not go, Nathan said quietly. I could use the company. Rebecca hesitated, then walked over and sat in the chair across from him. The city lights glittered in the distance, reflected in the dark waters of the lake. Cannot sleep? She asked. Never can, Nathan said. Not really. I sleep maybe 4 hours a night if I am lucky. The rest of the time, I work or sit here and think too much. What do you think about? Nathan swirled the whiskey in his glass. Everything. The merger, the business, the past, Amanda. Shh. He paused. You? Rebecca's heart skipped. Me. I think about whether I made a mistake, Nathan said, looking at her directly. Bringing you into this, using you to solve my problems. It seemed logical when I planned it. But now I see you here, living in this empty house, playing a role for strangers, and I wonder if I am just selfish. You are paying me very well to be selfish, Rebecca said with a small smile. Money does not make it right. Maybe not, Rebecca agreed. But it does not make it wrong either. I chose this. Nobody forced me. I needed help, and you offered it. Yes, there are strings attached, but at least they are clear strings. That is more honesty than most relationships have. Nathan let out a short laugh. Is that what we are? A relationship. Are we not? Rebecca asked. Maybe not a traditional one, but we live together. We eat together. We appear in public together. We know things about each other. That is more than I can say for the last person I dated. 2 years ago, Rebecca said. His name was David. We dated for 6 months. He seemed perfect until I found out he was still married. Separated, he claimed, but the wedding ring tan line told a different story. I am sorry. Do not be. It taught me something important. People lie. They create versions of themselves that they think you want to see. At least with you, I know exactly what this is. There is something refreshing about that. Nathan studied her in the dim light. You are not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone more desperate, I suppose. Someone who would just take the money and play the part without questions or depth. But you are more than that. You are smart. You pay attention. You are not intimidated by my world. Oh, I am definitely intimidated, Rebecca said with a laugh. I just hide it well. Do you know that at that first gala, I almost threw up in the bathroom from nerves? All those people, all that judgment. I kept thinking someone would point at me and yell, "She does not belong here." But they did not. No, because you made me feel like I did belong. The way you introduced me, the way you stayed close, you made it safe. Rebecca looked down at her hands. I did not expect that. I thought you would just use me as a prop, but you have been kind. Kind is a low bar. Nathan said quietly. You would be surprised how many people do not clear it. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the darkness wrapping around them like a blanket. Finally, Nathan spoke again. Tell me about your father. What was he like? Rebecca smiled sadly. He was a high school English teacher. Loved poetry, loved books, loved his students. When my mom left us when I was 10, he raised me alone. He never complained, never made me feel like a burden. He just loved me fiercely and taught me that words matter, that stories matter, that how we treat people matters. Her voice cracked slightly. The cancer took him slowly. It was brutal to watch someone so full of life just fade away. By the end, he could barely speak, but he still tried to quote his favorite poems. What was his favorite? Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. He made me promise I would rage against the dying of the light, that I would not give up, that I would fight for my life.
Ow.
She wiped at her eyes. Some days I am not sure I have kept that promise. Nathan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. You are here, are you not? Still fighting? That counts. Is it though? Or am I just surviving? Sometimes surviving is the fight, Nathan said. Sometimes just getting up in the morning is an act of rage against everything that wants to pull you down. Rebecca looked at him, really looked at him. In the darkness, he seemed younger, more vulnerable. The armor he wore so carefully during the day had slipped, and she could see the exhaustion underneath, the pain he carried, the loneliness that mirrored her own. Nathan, she said softly, can I ask you something personal? You can ask. I might not answer. Do you still love her, Amanda? Nathan was quiet for so long that Rebecca thought he would not answer. Then, yes, but not the way I did. What I feel now is more like the memory of love. Like looking at an old photograph and remembering what it felt like to be that person. To feel that way, but not quite being able to touch it anymore. Does that make sense? It does, Rebecca said. After my dad died, I kept his favorite sweater. Sometimes I would hold it and try to remember his smell, the sound of his voice. But memories fade. Eventually it just smelled like storage and old wool. I still keep it, but it does not bring him back. It just reminds me that he is gone. How do you move past it? The loss? I have not, Rebecca admitted. I just keep moving. Some days are better than others. Some days I wake up and forget for a moment that he is gone, and then I remember, and it hurts all over again. But the moments between the pain get longer. The grief becomes something you carry instead of something that carries you. Nathan nodded slowly. I think that is the part I have been avoiding. Learning to carry it instead of letting it crush me. It is hard, Rebecca said. It means accepting that the past is past, that you cannot change it, that you have to build something new, even though part of you died with them. What if I do not know how? Rebecca stood up and crossed the space between them, sitting on the arm of his chair. She did not touch him, just sat close. Then you learn. Step by step. Day by day, and maybe you do not do it alone. Nathan looked up at her, his blue eyes catching the faint light from the windows. Rebecca, yes. Thank you for being here. For being real, you are welcome. They stayed like that for a while, not speaking, just existing in the same space. Then Nathan stood, setting his empty glass aside. I should try to sleep. Big meeting in the morning, Kay, Rebecca said, standing as well. They walked to the stairs together. At the landing, Nathan paused. Rebecca, yes. That promise you made to your father about raging against the dying of the light, you are keeping it. Maybe not in the way you imagined, but you are still here, still fighting, still living. He would be proud of you. Before Rebecca could respond, Nathan continued up the stairs to his room. She stood there for a long moment, his words echoing in her mind, then went to her own room and finally slept without nightmares. The turning point, the breakthrough came 3 days later at a business dinner. Nathan had warned her it would be tedious. Potential investors from London, very formal, very boring. Rebecca dressed in a simple black dress and prepared for a long evening of polite conversation about markets and real estate. But halfway through dinner, the conversation turned to Art, one of the investors. A woman named Claire Donovan mentioned she collected modern poetry. Rebecca's ears perked up. Do you have a favorite poet? Rebecca asked. I'm quite fond of Sharon Olds, Claire said. Her work is raw and honest. What about you, dear? Dylan Thomas, Rebecca said without hesitation. My father was an English teacher. He lived and breathed poetry. Claire's eyes lit up. A woman after my own heart. Do you know the force that through the green fuse drives the flower? Of course, Rebecca said, and before she knew it, she was reciting, the force that through the green fuse drives the flower drives my green age. That blasts the roots of trees is my destroyer. The table had gone quiet. Everyone was watching her. Rebecca felt her face flush, suddenly aware she had spoken out of turn in this world of business talk. But then Claire began clapping, delighted. Nathan, she is wonderful. Where have you been hiding her? Nathan was staring at Rebecca with an expression she had never seen before. Something like awe. Clearly, I should have introduced you two sooner. The rest of the dinner was different. Claire drew Rebecca into conversation, asking about her father, about books, about life. The other investors warmed up, asking Nathan about his personal life in ways they never had before. For the first time, Rebecca saw the real purpose of their arrangement. She was not just a prop, she was humanizing him, making him approachable, trustworthy. In the car ride home, Nathan was quiet. Rebecca worried she had somehow messed up. I am sorry if I talked too much, she said. I know I was supposed to just smile and be quiet. You kidding? Nathan said, turning to look at her. You were perfect. Claire Donovan is one of the most difficult people to win over in the investment world. She has turned down billionaires, celebrities, politicians, but she liked you. Really liked you? Do you know what that means for the merger? That it is good? Rebecca said with a small smile. It is more than good. It is a game changer. Nathan paused. But that is not why I am amazed. I am amazed because you were yourself. You did not try to impress her or put on an act. You just talked about poetry and your father, and it was honest and beautiful, and I realized I have never seen you truly relaxed before. I love poetry, Rebecca said simply. It is one of the few things that still makes sense to me. Tell me your favorite poem, Nathan said. Right now. Rebecca thought for a moment, then spoke softly. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage. Rage against the dying of the light. Dylan Thomas, Nathan said. My father's favorite. He made me memorize it when I was 12. I did not understand it then, but now I do. It is about fighting. About not giving up even when everything is dark. About living fiercely until the very end. Nathan reached across the seat and took her hand. The gesture was not for show. There were no cameras, no audience. It was just them in the dark car, and he held her hand like it mattered. I think, Nathan said quietly, that your father chose the perfect poem for you. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. She squeezed his hand back. Thank you.